Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ascend Learning Trust Parent Carers Awareness Talk on Apprenticeships. It's lovely to see so many of you joining us this evening. We hope that you will find this evening's talk informative, and hopefully you'll go away feeling well equipped and be able to talk to your son or daughter regarding apprenticeships. So let me make some introductions. My name's Elaine Cook and I'm the Careers Coordinator at Kingsbury Green Academy. I'm also completing my level 6 qualification as an apprenticeship to become a career development person. Joining us this evening is Kath Young, careers leader at Kingsbury Green Academy and also the Wellington Academy.
Evening all.
Thank you. I'd like to give a warm welcome to our guest speaker this evening, Mike Holliday from ASK, who will be giving the presentation on the apprenticeships. So Mike, I'll hand over to you now.
Okay, so hopefully you can now see the screen and also still hear me and see me okay. So yeah, I'm going to be talking to you about apprenticeships, and hopefully you'll be a little bit more equipped by the end of this session, just to know a little bit more what apprenticeships are and so on. So let me just talk you through what an apprenticeship is. So basically, as an apprentice, you are employed. So it's a recruitment process as if somebody is just going for a job as well. So you go through the selection process. It is competitive, and I think that's really important to note. So if somebody wants to go and do an apprenticeship, it's not a foregone conclusion they're just going to walk into one. They will have to go through the recruitment process along with other people that are also applying for that position. So it's worth noting that, you know, it is a recruitment process they'll need to go through, and they will be interviewed, and various different things that will happen throughout that interview process. But obviously, from day one, they would be employed, and therefore they would be earning a salary as well. And it can be quite a good salary too. There's a national minimum wage for apprenticeships, and that's currently £6.40 an hour. And that's obviously reflects that for some people, they're going into their first job with little or no experience. But the good news is often there's things like incremental pay rises as they gain the qualifications, as they gain the skills. But also lots of employers advertise their vacancies well ahead of the national minimum wage for apprenticeships, because they're trying to recruit their future workforce and want the best. So it's important, don't be put off if you see a salary that's low to start with, because there's often pay rises that will go through that as they gain the qualifications. The way it works basically is that there's an element of on-the-job and off-the-job training, and so basically about 20% of the time the student will be released from the workplace to do the theoretical studies, and then the remaining time, the 80%, will be in the workplace, putting those the theoretical side into practice in the workplace and applying those skills. So a combination of, as I said, some of it off the job, some of it on the job, but the bulk of it will be on the job. There's various different levels. They go from level 2 right through to degree level, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment on the next slide. Typically, they have to be at least a year, and sometimes even up to 6 years, depending on the level that they're studying towards. But an apprenticeship has to be at least 1 year in duration. There's also English and maths if they're required. So if your young person has their GCSEs or their A-levels, then that's fine. Then it may exempt them from doing their English and maths. But if they don't have the required levels in English and maths, they can do that alongside doing the apprenticeship as well, and increase those skills as well. As I said, it's a real job, and obviously with real responsibility, so it's not necessarily the easy option. You're holding down a full-time job and also studying at the same time, so it's not going to be necessarily the easy option for some students. And they're over, as you can see on the screen, it says 700 standards, and basically standards are the qualifications that the apprentices work towards, and the fact that there are 700 should tell you that there's an awful lot of choice there. And people historically think of apprenticeships as being things like construction, engineering and hairdressing, and there's some great opportunities in those sectors, but the fact that 700 standards should tell you that there's lots and lots of other opportunities as well within the apprenticeship route. So I've mentioned the levels, and you can see on the screen now we've got 4 different levels. So they go from intermediate, advanced, higher and degree level. And you can see the equivalent to, so where it says intermediate, equivalent to 5 GCSE passes at grades 9 to 4, that is what is equivalent to when the young person has completed the apprenticeship. So they don't need those grades to actually start an apprenticeship. That's what it's equivalent to at the end of it. So likewise, an advanced is equivalent to 2 A-levels and so on. So that's really worth noting. But it's also worth noting that if your young person also has their GCSEs, for example, that they're just automatically going to do an advanced apprenticeship. That's not the way it works. As I said, some people have no work skills and haven't worked in a work environment at all. So sometimes they may need to do start at a lower level and then progress up through the levels as they gain those core skills and that independence in the workplace. Okay, so the key facts about apprenticeships basically, as I said, it's the levels aren't linear. Okay, so it's not that they have start at the bottom and work up to the top. Depending on previous experience and depending on qualifications, they could start part way up. And sometimes you can actually progress, or not progress, but move sideways if you change sectors as well. Majority of starts in under 19s were at the intermediate and advanced level. So this is the data from the last 3 years. So most of those under 19 starts were at the intermediate advanced level. It is employer-led, and you apply to the employer, and the employer will then select the training provider, and that could be a local college, it could be an independent training provider, but that's down to the employer to decide. And being down to the employer, they have different recruitment methods as well. So some employers may just ask for a CV, interview and appoint. Some employers, particularly large employers, may make the applicants jump through a few more hoops. They might have to do some online tests. They might have to do a video interview. Sometimes students are sent away to an assessment centre, the likes of Sky, for example. They have assessment centre days where the applicants all go to that particular centre and do various things like team building and observations, all those sorts of things as well. But that's down to the employer to decide how they want to recruit. The entry requirements vary, as I said, to a degree. The employers will stipulate that in their job advert, the minimum requirements. Again, it's worth noting some employers will say that certain levels of qualifications are essential. So that, again, that's worth noting. So if the employer is saying it's essential, they want their applicants to have that, then obviously they need to have that essential criteria. They will accept, obviously, predicted grades, so those can be used. Sometimes an employer may just say it's desirable. And therefore, if it's a desirable requirement, then obviously, if the young person doesn't have that, they can still apply for that particular vacancy. And again, it's down to the employer to decide when they actually advertise the vacancy. Employers are recruiting apprentices all the time. There's no sort of there's no minimum age. Sorry, there's no maximum age for apprenticeship. So therefore, it's not just young people that are going for apprenticeships. So the employers are recruiting all the time at all stages throughout the academic year. There are peaks and troughs. Some of the advanced levels, the higher levels, the higher degree levels, generally the employers start advertising around sort of November, December time onwards to actually start the apprenticeship the following summer. So again, it's worth noting, don't leave things too late. And then some of the intermediate and advanced levels generally start going live around sort of February time, when we have National Apprenticeship Week every year, and we see a lot of vacancies go live then as well. So I'm just going to show you a short video now just to give you a flavour of what some of the apprenticeships are.
Apprentices are all around us, working in our towns and cities, supporting businesses, organisations and communities, all whilst gaining invaluable experience and qualifications. Apprentices are amazing.
We work on the latest automotive technology.
We work towards the conservation of endangered animals.
We care for our local communities.
We build the places you care about.
We cut and style your hair.
We fight fires, we respond to emergencies, and we save lives.
We produce your TV shows.
We support scientists doing groundbreaking research.
We install electrical infrastructure.
We promote and market your businesses.
We manufacture your favourite products.
And make sure they are the best they can be.
We even work in Parliament.
Discover the world of apprenticeships. Visit amazingapprenticeships.com.
Okay, so hopefully that's given you a flavour of some of the different sectors that are available to do an apprenticeship. I'm now going to touch on some of the higher degree level apprenticeships as well, and they're a real alternative to going on to university as a full-time student. Certainly worth considering. there's some really good benefits to doing a higher degree level apprenticeship rather than going to full-time university, but they are competitive, and I must stress that. One of the key advantages of doing a degree level apprenticeship is that university fees are paid for by the employer and the government, so there's no fees to pay for the student. So again, like I said, you can imagine they are very, very popular, but there's no fees to pay, and obviously then therefore there's no debt as well. And also because they're employed, they're also earning a wage, and also gaining work experience as well, in the direct experience in the workplace. And when it comes to the end of their degree level apprenticeship, because they're already employed, they then don't have to go and find a job either. So like I said, you can imagine it's very competitive for those, but as long as the students and applicants put the effort into their applications, the rewards are fantastic. Generally, for a degree level apprenticeship, it lasts between sort of 4 to 6 years, and you can see it says over 100 universities and college and training providers are providing those degree level apprenticeships now as well. But it's generally down to the employer to select which university or provider that they're going to use. Sometimes it's open to the student to opt, but mainly about sort of 95% of them are where the employer stipulates which university centre they're going to use. So looking at the range of apprenticeships, and you can see on the screen now a snapshot of various different ones. You've got there first off as a pilot, paralegal, dietitian, aerospace engineer, business administrator, zookeeper. So again, that's literally just a snapshot. As I said, over 700 different apprenticeships that they can study towards. And again, looking at who actually recruits apprentices. So you can see on the screen there some familiar logos, and these particular employers, large employers, recruit apprentices every year. But it's really important to note that they only make up about 50% of apprenticeship starts in any year. The remaining 50% are with small local employers, and I think that's really important to note. Don't think the young person is going to do an apprenticeship and therefore work for some very large company. They might well do, but like I said, small local employers also recruit apprenticeships. And also, it's worth knowing that for some small employers, they get a sort of rounded experience. They might rotate in different departments throughout that company. So again, slightly different experience, but certainly, yeah, something else to consider. The other thing to consider is look inside a company. So say, for example, the young person wants to do a finance apprenticeship. Don't just look at the finance companies. It could be a local engineering firm, for example. If they're a large enough firm, they may have their own departments, and therefore they may well have a finance department, and therefore they could still do a finance apprenticeship in that organisation, even though it's an engineering firm. So, like I said, think a little bit outside the box, because there are opportunities there in different businesses, but within different departments as well. So just looking at the number of vacancies, and this is using Kingsbury Green as a central point, but I know there are other parents from other schools, but just using that as a central point. So we've got there, these are live vacancies as we speak. So currently within 5 miles of Kingsbury Green, we've got 3 live vacancies, 10 miles, 16 vacancies, 15 miles, 33 vacancies, 20 miles, 63 vacancies, right the way up to 30 miles. There are currently 244 live vacancies. And as I said, it sort of peaks and troughs. So at the moment, these are employers that are recruiting people now on the whole. Some of them are live actually to start next year, but a lot of them are to start fairly soon. So as I said, peaks and troughs come sort of February time next year. We'll see a lot more of the level 2s and level 3s going live, but we are seeing some of the higher degree level 1s going live now, and in fact some of them have got imminent closing dates as well. So it's not too soon to start looking for the summer starts next year. So the further afield, obviously, a young person can travel, the more opportunities will open up for them. But as I said, they are employed, so therefore they have to be realistic, because the employer will expect them to turn up on time every day. So it's pointless applying for something they can't actually get to. So be realistic in their searches. But if they have access to their own transport or public transport, then obviously the opportunities will open up further. And just to drill down on those a little bit further, you can see these are some examples of those. So we've got their Premier Jobs UK, I know is a friend of Kingsbury Green, but lots and lots of different ones. So you can see their Journalist Apprentice of the BBC. They're live at the moment, closing imminently. But again, that is actually starting next year. a customer service apprentice with Howden Joinery, advanced manufacturing degree apprentice with Siemens. Again, that's starting in August next year. And you can see the different ranges of salaries there as well. They're all in excess of the national minimum wage, with the exception of the one at the bottom. So like I said, it's down to the employer to decide what they want to pay and recruit their future workforce. And they'll pay accordingly. So some of the salaries there, like I said, well in excess of the national minimum wage. But if it is the national minimum wage, like I said, don't be put off, because there are often incremental pay rises as well as they gain those skills and gain the qualifications. So how do you find an apprenticeship? So there's lots of different places. It's not like when you apply to college or university or sixth form. There's lots of different places to look. There is one major site that's really worth having a look at. It's a government site called Find an Apprenticeship. It's a really good place to start looking, but like I said, it's not the only place. On Find an Apprenticeship, there's over 20,000 vacancies advertised over a year. It's free to use, and being a government site, it's a secure site, and also students can actually apply directly through that site to the vacancies. Sometimes they can apply through the site itself, or sometimes the apply button will take them through to the employer's site, and they can apply for it from that point. But it's a really good place to have a look. Okay. Looks like we got somebody not on mute, so if you can mute, please. So like I said, that's one place, a really good place to start, but it's not the only place. So as well as things like Find an Apprenticeship, there's local websites. Look at local websites. There's Young Work Wiltshire, for example. They often advertise vacancies. That's through Wiltshire Council. Some companies only advertise their vacancies on their own websites, and that's it. So again, if a young person is interested in working for a certain company, make sure that you go on their website, see whether they recruit apprenticeships. If they do, what their recruitment windows are, when they start advertising, when the closing dates are. So like I said, sometimes they'll only be advertised on there. So it's literally a matter of shopping around and looking around to see what the vacancies are. Other careers websites as well, and the likes of Indeed as well. They'll advertise vacancies for apprenticeships as well, not just for jobs. So like I said, register on those sites as well. Social media now is a huge platform now for advertising vacancies. As I mentioned, National Apprenticeship Week in February. This year in February, we saw over 3,000 vacancies go live in that 1 week. So lots of employers advertise their vacancies in that week, and most of that is through social media, because it's quick, it's instant. So therefore, follow those organisations, follow organisations within the sector that they're interested in working in, because the opportunities will also be there on social media. The other thing to do is talk to family and friends. So get the young person to speak to them, because you just never know what might come from that. Some employers advertise their vacancies internally within their workforce before it goes out to the public domain. So again, it may be that something will come from that, and you get the heads up before it goes out in the public domain. The other thing to look at is twice a year there's a listing that comes out. It's called the higher and degree level listing. It comes through Amazing Apprenticeships, but it stems from the Department for Education. It comes out in October and is generally refreshed around sort of January, February time. And that lists a lot of large employers that recruit apprentices, and it tells you all about the positions, where the employer's based, what the salary is, what the closing date is, what the start date is. So a really useful resource to have a look at for those that are looking at doing some of the high and degree level apprenticeships. So I think in a nutshell, that basically says there's not one place. Do lots of research, look in different places. Find an apprenticeship is a good place to start, but it's not the only place. So coming to the end of the presentation, there's lots of information out there for you if you want to find out more about apprenticeships. There's parent webinars, there's parent newsletters that you can sign up to on Amazing Apprenticeships. There's also things like an application guide to talk young people how to go through the application process, some hints and tips, what to expect. Lots of webinars that they can watch, podcasts and things like that. Lots of resources as well. And also yet another place for advertising vacancies. Some employers also advertise their vacancies on Amazing Apprenticeships as well. So again, worth looking at that website as well. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully it's given you all the information you need.
A question about the age of an apprentice, and the fact that, any age from school leaver age. Have you ever seen a limit on an advert of they won't employ someone older? No, they can't. Perfect. So any age. So
any age. Yeah, and I know of apprentices that are set in their 70s.
Oh, fantastic. And Mrs. Cook is not in her 70s, but is evidence that you don't have to be a school pupil leaving into the world of work to apply for an apprenticeship. So parents and carers, if you're keen, obviously this is an opportunity for you as well for a potential career change. So we're going to watch a video now. So we've got a lovely student that was part of the Ascend Learning Trust at the Kingsley Green Academy School called Taylor. I'd love to welcome you back, Taylor. 2020, you left year 13 and went into the world of being an apprentice. So thank you for sharing some of your top tips and story to our parents and carers tonight. So my first question for you is, what advice would you give for finding an apprenticeship, and what was your background with that?
Yeah, so it's a good place to start actually, because I wasn't actually always decided on an apprenticeship. So I actually applied to uni and was kind of very set on that being my kind of pathway and what I was going to do. Was really set on it, and just kind of got lucky in a way that obviously these amazing career fairs that you put on. There was someone actually there offering a marketing apprenticeship, and kind of got chatting about what they were after and kind of what it was they were offering, and went from there really. Yeah, did my, I'm trying to think back to when I did actually. I'm sure I would have got someone like yourself or Miss Wood to look over my application. Yeah, I mean, I was quite fortunate, and I always tried to fill up my CV when I was in, like, when I did work experience in year 10, I think it would have been, again in year 12, I think I did some work experience. I was really fortunate that I was able to make those both related to what it was that I was doing as well, which is marketing. But yeah, just tried to fill up my application as much as possible to make it as strong as I could. And yeah, quite fortunately got the role. I think if you've got two applications and one person's kind of got, even if it's like a week or, a couple of weeks or a couple of months here and there, just kind of showing the intent to, this is actually what I want to do. I'm not just making it up because it's here and convenient. It is actually what I want to do. Yeah, I'd like to think that if you had two CVs side by side, you'd kind of pick the one that's kind of gone out of their way and tried to make a little bit of an effort to kind of get some experience in whatever form that is. Yeah.
So what would you say it was like balancing work and study?
Yeah, so it's definitely hard, because also I think that the other two that I'd add into that is like health, kind of like balancing that because you're already super busy, and then also like having a social life. So you're trying to balance the four kind of things, which is, yeah, doesn't get any easier, to be honest, but definitely like the four things for me. Yeah, it was really tricky. I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't, but I think you just have to make a bit of an effort. I think whereas at uni, it can kind of fall into your lap a little bit, and you kind of you're still in that environment of kind of being told what to do, and you're in a house with people and stuff. So it kind of happens naturally there. Whereas in an apprenticeship, you do definitely have to make more of an effort to do.
Did you feel you missed out from not being at uni full time?
I don't feel like I missed out at all. No, I think all that I'd say is that it's definitely difficult, and you definitely have to make more of an effort. I feel like in uni, you probably kind of get put into situations where you're, things are looked after naturally. You're put in a house with people that you can socialise with. You're told where to go and what to do and stuff. Whereas in an apprenticeship, it's kind of similar in some regards, but in a lot of ways, you do have to kind of have that, like intrinsic motivation to go out and get that yourself, and stay in touch with your mates at different parts. But again, I can't imagine that's massively different to going to uni and just making an effort with your friends from back home and stuff. But yeah, no, I definitely don't feel like I missed out at all.
Thanks. And what did you feel that the apprenticeship actually did for you personally and professionally?
Yeah, so I mean, there's loads of answers to this question. The biggest one obviously is getting a qualification out of it for me. Definitely now in my role now, it immediately gives me that credibility where, although I'm young and I can't really hide from that fact, I've got kind of already 3 or 4 years under my belt. So definitely the first step on the ladder and the qualifications has to be the biggest thing for me. I mean, I do definitely feel like it's probably put me a fair few years ahead in terms of like my career and stuff. So has to be the biggest thing for me. It's helped me in terms of what I do now. So yeah, I was very fortunate to set up my own business. Been doing that around 2 years, I think now, full time, coming on 2 years, but was kind of freelancing during the apprenticeship as well. So yeah, that was a manic time as well. But there's absolutely no way that I'd be able to do what I do now in terms of be self-employed and have my own business without having had the apprenticeship experience. You know, we were talking before this, it is all those soft skills that just kind of completely fly under the radar of, you know, email etiquette and time management and project ownership and all these things that, you know, school's brilliant and it is amazing for lots of things, but stuff like that kind of real world work environment stuff, there's no way that you get that from school or uni or anything else apart from actually just going and doing it. So yeah, absolutely categorically, there's no way I'll be able to do what I do now without my apprenticeship.
Great, thanks so much, Taylor, and we just wish you loads of luck with it all. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
Do you want to say your business name in case there's any business out there for you?
Yeah, so it's just my name. It's just Taylor Maddock Marketing. And yeah, we do kind of content for all different types of businesses. And yeah, if anyone, also just to kind of extend you know, I'm sure you put my email up or whatever. If there's anything I can do to help anyone, questions, guidance, whatever, if I can be of any help, just feel free to reach out.
Thank you. That's Taylor, and I think he really meant it. So if any parent or carer out here tonight is thinking, you know, my son or daughter could really benefit from speaking to Taylor, do look him up. So Taylor Maddock Marketing, his contact details are on his website. Do get in touch and have a chat with how he did it, how he juggled it. He did come to our careers fair, and there were actually 2 opportunities at the time when he was going around the careers fair that he discovered that he could have applied for, and he was fortunate that they were in our area, so they were quite simple for him to get to, but they were still extremely competitive. And like you said, those extra things that he did, that work experience, so making the most of those opportunities that we offer across our schools, you know, the year 10 placements, kind of shadowing people. You can do that in your own holidays, you know, outside of what we offer at school. You know, you just make the most of any of those chances. And someone on the chat was actually asking, were we going to put out a view of this video, a link to it, and we'll put it on altcareers.org.uk, and that is a Trustwide website, and Mrs. Cook is our resident blogger. She will put all the opportunities that we see on there for you to look at, and those opportunities are things that your young person can get involved in that will make them stand out, like Taylor did, and that's the way forward, isn't it, Mike, for those applications, making sure that you're seen and you stand out across the crowd, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Putting yourself forward to be ahead of the others. Basically, there's much research and preparation that young people can put into their applications. It really does pay off.
Yeah, and I know all of our schools, we all run careers fairs, and there's such an amazing chance to speak to employers and also to universities and colleges and training providers. So please, you know, every school will have like a parent slot. I know that our careers fair on the 26th of November, we've got an open slot 3 till 4 p.m. at Kingsby Green, and the other careers fairs are coming up. So do find out from your school career leader, you know, what your slot is, and go along. And if your son or daughter doesn't want to go with you for any reason, we'll go, you know, come along by yourself and speak to those employers, because it's great CPD as well, for yourself, you know, of what's out there and what's available. And like I said earlier, maybe an opportunity to think about what you're doing as well, and it's nice to have everyone in one place where you can go around and explore what's available. Okay, back to you, Elaine.
Yes, Nathan, a huge thank you to Mike for the presentation. I think it was a very comprehensive overview of apprenticeships, and obviously Kath for speaking to Taylor a couple of days ago. If anybody's got any questions, I think obviously we'd like to sort of open up now. If you feel free to sort of turn your mics on and ask any questions.
How sure and how certain is it that if we apply for this apprenticeship and there is like a review or test being done, and my daughter actually passes this test, being the fact that she's not British, how possible is it that she's going to be able to benefit from this program? That is the question I intend asking.
Yeah, a question for you, Mike. Can sort of non-UK students apply for apprenticeships, or is there a different process for them applying?
There is an eligibility criteria, and I don't have that to hand at the moment, but they have to be eligible. But the training provider or the college would certainly be able to help with that to say whether they are eligible or not. But it is certainly possible.
Does that answer your question, Paul? So you can, obviously your daughter can apply for an apprenticeship, but there may be a criteria for that.
Okay, what we are currently residing in the UK. However, we are not British. That is the question I'm trying to ask. Why we are residing in Britain, the UK, and she is actually studying in UK for her secondary study. Can she benefit from such scheme? Is the question I'm trying to ask. It's not like we are outside UK. We are currently within the UK.
Yeah. How long have you been in the UK?
2 going to 3 years now.
Yeah, I think you should be okay. I think it's possibly 3 years. But like I said, the training provider or college would be able to help you more so with that one with regards to the actual eligibility criteria, but it should be possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So where are the best places for my child to be looking for apprenticeships? Can they be arranged through college? So that's a fantastic question. And like Mike covered, you know, that Find an Apprenticeship is a really, really good place to start. So if you type in Find an Apprenticeship on Google, it's the government site that will come up and you can start with the searches there. Also, we have information that's sent to us from New College Swindon, for example. They email out their apprenticeship opportunities where they're liaising with employers who want to use them as their training provider. So they're quite proactive in letting people know in the area what apprenticeships that they are running and which employers that they're currently working with. So you can go directly to a college. So you could speak to some of the local colleges like New College Swindon, like Wiltshire College, Bath College, and ask to speak to their apprenticeship team. They don't typically find you the employer. They offer the apprenticeship, but you need to find the employer yourself. But they may have links or they may have relationships with people that they know about, or an employer might have contacted them and said, you know, I want to use you as my training provider, and I'm looking for some students to become an apprentice with me, and so they might know that information. So definitely speak to the colleges where you can. But I also think just, you know, it depends on the type of apprenticeship. Like if you're looking for a trade apprenticeship, then, you know, going out there with your CV, speaking to people that you know, because a lot of the people that we see students getting apprenticeships with, they're sometimes sole traders. You know, they've got their own business and they take on an apprentice, and quite often that will be connected to who they know. Maybe it's a family friend, you know, their son or daughter, and then they set that up. So you know, some people I've seen them, they've put it on like the local Facebook shout out for their town. So, you know, and also local other training providers, like independent training providers, you can contact them as well. Like, for example, there's one called QA. I think they're IT based, Mike, is that right? QA?
Yes, yeah, they are.
Yeah. So you can contact them. They're a bit like a college, but they will come into your workplace to train you, but they sometimes have a list of who's looking. So yeah, so it's, and the other thing is just go direct to the company, look at their websites, look at, have they got a, you know, apprenticeship program that they're describing on their website, and if not, give them a call, and just say, you know, I'm ideally get your son or daughter to do it, even if you're supporting them in the background. But it sounds so much better, you know, if they are ringing and saying, oh, excuse me, no, I'm leaving school, you know, in the summer, I'm really keen to become an apprentice. I've looked up your company on the internet. It looks really interesting. I looked at your values. I looked at the project you're working on. It looks like exactly the thing I want to get involved in. I wondered if you had an apprentice opportunity. That looks much better, because of course they want people that are proactive. They want people that are curious. They want people that are kind of willing to kind of give that a go and call and be confident in that. So I think all of those things, and you know, it's not easy. Finding an apprenticeship is definitely not easy, and the pupils that we have seen achieve an apprenticeship, they've been the really determined ones. They definitely, that's what they want to do. They go out and beyond to find an apprenticeship, and they apply. Like Mrs. Cook and Elaine and I, we went to a recent apprenticeship show in Bristol with our year 12s, and we met a girl who was doing a solicitor apprenticeship. and we know how hard they are to get. So we said to her, you know, well done, that's amazing, you got that. She said, yeah, I applied for 8. She said, I did get 2 or maybe even 3, so she did do really well, but she applied for 8. And she said, we said, you know, what support did you get? And she had an unbelievable amount of support from her parents. You know, they were getting her to practice interviews with them, they were researching the companies with her, they were speaking to people that they know, like, you know. And so you've got to use your network as wide as you can. And if you don't feel that you know, confident enough to support them, then please get in contact, you know, with your careers team at the school that your child goes to, and we will be more than willing to support you with that. But yeah, it's that determination and that perseverance, and that multiple applications whilst having a backup plan. Make sure you apply for college or sixth form as well, so you've got that backup plan. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question about where to look. Mike, do you want to add to that at all?
No, I think, I mean, I suppose the only thing to bear in mind is if you go and find an apprenticeship at the vacancies, it will also say obviously who the employer is, who the training provider is, and there's a contact us button on there as well. So you can, if you've got any questions about the programs, you can contact the employer through the Find an Apprenticeship site and ask those questions. So again, often it's the first point at which you can make an impression, or rather your son or daughter can make an impression. And as Kath said, it's more important that it comes from them rather than from you as your parent. You can support them, but it's really beneficial if they actually make that contact themselves. But then, like I said, if they then pose those questions, it's getting their name in front of that employer as well. So yeah.
And one of the, to answer the next question in the chat, like I can
sorry,
see someone's
before we, yeah, I was going to say we've got some, Trina's had her hand up for a while, so
yeah, okay, we'll go with that first.
Trina, your question is?
Hiya, I've got 2 questions. If your child has been accepted for an apprenticeship, do we have to apply for a college in the time being, or is that something that the employer does?
Want me to answer that one? Or?
I don't mind, I can take it. So if you've applied and been successful in the apprenticeship, then the employer will be setting up with the training provider the actual study element. So that could be at a college, depends on the employer's choice, but it could be with a college, it could be with an independent training provider, but they will set all that up. So if they've been successful and offered an apprenticeship, that will be done for them. They don't have to do that themselves.
Okay, because I have actually applied for college just because obviously I weren't 100% sure at the time of what I was meant to do. Will that have an effect on?
No, it's always good to have backup plans. Certainly apply, you can apply for as many apprenticeships and college courses and everything else, and then obviously depending on results, they can then decide what it is they want to do at that particular point. So always best to have a backup plan. As I said, apprenticeships aren't a foregone conclusion. They are competitive, so therefore don't just think I'm going to do an apprenticeship and that's going to be it, because you'll need a backup plan as well.
Okay, lovely. And my second question is, with an apprenticeship, is there anything that just trying to word it properly without it being like, are there any risks to it, or like, is there anything that you should be aware of that could be hidden in a contract or anything like that? I'm not saying that anybody employer-wise would do that, but obviously with us as adults, when we read a contract, we're looking into it quite in depth and seeing if there's anything in there that you're not quite like happy with, or not. So I'm just like, with them being children still, is there anything as far as an apprenticeship that we need to be aware of as such?
No, I mean you have to be 16 to do an apprenticeship, but they will be given a separate contract of employment, but they will have a contract of employment, but it will be a 3-way contract of employment between the apprentice, the employer, and also the training provider as well. So there's that sort of 3-way process within that, but they get exactly the same benefits as anybody else that's working for that organisation. So they'll get holiday pay, they'll get sick pay. If there's a pension scheme or a bonus scheme, they'll be entitled to be enrolled in that as well. But yes, they'll be given a contract of employment worth poring over it and making sure that everything's fine, but no different to any other contract of employment. Just make sure that it's a good one. I suppose the other thing to bear in mind is that if you look at the training provider, whether that be an independent provider or a college, they're all inspected by Ofsted. Right, so again, it's worth having a look at who the training provider is and look at their Ofsted grade. And that will give you a feel for whether it's a good provider, what the experience is likely to be. So yeah, just another sort of thing to look at and think about, really.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I think we go back to the chat box now.
So what happens if they leave school with the aim of joining an apprenticeship but not successful? So it's really important. We've talked quite a lot about backup plans. So it's really important that you apply for both. So when we have pupils looking for an apprenticeship, we're always saying, make sure that you apply for college or sixth form as well. So if you don't achieve the apprenticeship, offer that you're looking for, that you've still got somewhere to go. Your child has to be in education, employment or training, until they're 18. So if they are looking for an apprenticeship after year 11, then they need to make sure they've got that application in, and then they're continuing to look for the apprenticeship at the same time. When they get their grades, if they decide actually, it's that apprenticeship that they want to start and they're doing that, then their college course or sixth form place, that would just cancel out. They just wouldn't turn up to that. And obviously it would be the nice thing to do would be to contact and let them know that they're not taking that place up. We also recommend for those that are finding it really difficult to find the actual apprenticeship that they're wanting, or maybe they've applied quite a few times and not been successful, that actually it's a really good place to start with a college or a sixth form place. So particularly with the vocational courses, if someone's mentioned here they're looking for carpentry, so we have a lot of pupils that would start the level 1 or level 2 carpentry course at Wiltshire College, for example, or New College Swindon. And they would begin those courses and then they start to get the skills, they start to get the foundations for what it's all about. They can also test out if actually they do really enjoy it. And then because they're in that environment, they're doing that vocational subject, they're linking with people and potentially having placements as part of their course, they're starting to get to know who's in that trade, who's in that industry. And if they do a placement or they're doing well on their course, they may well be recommended or praised for their placement and then offered an apprenticeship on the back of it. And then if they're applying, they see an apprenticeship come up, because they come up all the year round, for those lower level apprenticeships, you see them pop up all year round because maybe an apprentice is finished or dropped out or whatever it might be, and a place has come up. So when they see that apprenticeship and they apply, they've already got some skills that they've picked up from college, so they tend to be a more competitive applicant than someone coming straight out of school. So if they don't get that apprenticeship straight off, please don't worry. Like reassure them that is fine to go and get some experience at college first, but keep applying and keep looking going forwards. Hopefully that answers that question. Do you have any? Can
I add to that one?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
To that one? And as I said, also there's peaks and troughs to recruitment. So, for example, the carpentry one is if it's difficult at the moment, a lot of those sort of construction trades won't start recruiting until probably the spring, to start in the summer. So you might be looking now, and there's not a great deal, but there will be more coming on as you sort of get past the sort of spring.
Yeah. And with the specific choices, so we've got one here about, if I wanted to find a cybersecurity apprenticeship, where would I look? So the Find an Apprenticeship site, you can put in keywords like cyber and see what comes up. Mike, we talked QA earlier. I think that's cyber, the training providers. That's IT and cyber. I've got a feeling it's both.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And also, I send out to the school, there's a thing called Cyber Connect, which comes out, and there's lots of things on there for things like open days and what have you. So, and employers are often there as well. So if you get that opportunity to go along to the cyber events, that really does help as well.
Yeah, there's an event on the 6th of December in Trowbridge. It's a cyber event for schools. So I'm not sure, Jay White, I'm not sure what school you're linked to, but do find out if your school are taking a trip there and whether your child is in the year group that they're taking. If not, then ask your son or daughter to speak to the teacher running the trip and make sure they bring them back lots of material from the employers that were at that event, because that might give some leads as to who is offering apprenticeships. Can you fail an apprenticeship, Mike?
I suppose technically, yes, you can. You'll be given all the support from the employer and also the training provider. But there is, at the end of the apprenticeship, what's known as an endpoint assessment. But they have opportunities to retake that as well. So it's not so much about failing the apprenticeship because the support will be given. It may well be that an apprentice might drop out. They might think actually it's not for them, and that's okay to do. It won't look necessarily great on your CV, but it is possible to withdraw if it's not the right option as well.
Super. And are there any corporates who look for candidates to fill in future positions in senior roles through apprenticeship programs?
Absolutely. If you go on the either Find an Apprenticeship, but also the higher degree level listing, they go right the way through. There's the vacancies with the in that listing, particularly with the large corporates, and they go right the way through to master's degree.
Yeah, and we use that quite a lot with our young people. And if you type it into Google as well, higher and degree apprenticeship listing, I'll try and put it in the chat in a minute. That list gives you so many ideas of company names as well. So then you can look up the companies and see what other level apprenticeships they potentially offer. And it's got kind of wages on there, locations on there, and you can see the types of apprenticeships that are offered at the higher levels. You know, the levels that those coming out with their level 3 already, you know, would be looking to apply for.
Thank you. Has anybody got any more questions to ask?
There was, yeah, just popped in. Yeah. Have you got some experience from what different providers have done with that?
Yes, if the apprentice is struggling with balancing work and so, yes, there's always support. They can also make the decision to increase the length of the apprenticeship. So if they need to maybe drop hours, for example, they could do it over a longer period of time. But yeah, there's a lot of pastoral support as well. The training providers are experts in that, and will give that additional support where needed.
And it's nice there's that third party as well. You know, you've got your employer, but you've also got your training provider. So you will have meetings with them and support with them, which is quite nice, because sometimes there's things maybe you want to discuss about your job that you don't want to talk to your employer about, but you can talk to your training provider about. So it's another kind of angle to your kind of life, I suppose, of like a mentor as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, well, if anybody's got any more questions, I'd like to say, you know, a huge thank you again for joining us this evening. And obviously we're there to support your young people, and hopefully today you'll go away with sort of a better understanding of apprenticeships, and sort of feel free to sort of talk to them about it. Certainly for year 11 students, we are in the process, they'll be in the process of having a careers guidance appointment. So, you know, apprenticeships is something that sort of gets discussed versus sort of college and sixth form. So they are given the information, but, you know, we know young people don't always talk to their parents. So you've now got the information to sort of open up dialogue with them over the dinner table, maybe tomorrow evening. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody. And if everybody's got no more questions, we'll close the meeting.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks for your kind words.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.